I'm Mary.
And I'm Jenny.
Couldn't get enough of our podcast?
Well, all right. Here's one more bite.
So, we're going to talk a little bit about mead. Have you heard of mead and have you tried it?
Yes and yes. It's kind of a funny story with mead because my last name is Kvas. And Kvas in Slavic origin means like a fermented beverage. Mm-hmm. But in Germanic origins, it kind of means to crush or to squeeze. So great for football. That was a great nickname. But in the world of alcohol, it's kind of neat because in Norse mythology, there was kind of a Norse god or demigod named Kvasir. And it was said that from his blood was one of the first and finest meads ever made. Oh. And it introduced poetry to the world. So kind of a cool little family tie-in. Maybe that's, maybe my name has some origins in Norse mythology too. I didn't know that.
That is amazing.
But it's point being, it's been around forever and everyone's kind of got a story. And I think the reason why it's been around forever is because honey is one of the only things, as you guys probably know, that never goes bad. They found, honey in the pyramids and they could still eat it. It never goes bad because it's a natural antibacterial, meaning that if you were to harvest honey and ferment it into alcohol, you could keep a basin or a blanking on the word, like one of those big urns or vases full of honey. And in ancient times, you'd be able to continuously make alcohol, whereas grapes harvest is only once a year, and harvest, grain is dependent on the weather. But bees are always making honey. So I think historically that's why it's had its roots, is because it was the alcohol that was always there. And I think it's been lost over time because so many other spirits have taken the spotlight, especially wine. And a lot of people don't like the taste of raw honey. It's hard to get people on that. So I think that's the only adjustment people are going to have to make. We're going to have to start drinking more meads, and they're going to have to make them in different styles, in my opinion. I know that wasn't the question.
That's okay.
Yeah. No,
that's okay.
Perfect.
So you mentioned honey as one of the ingredients. What else is in a mead that makes it a mead?
Well, you can add any kind of herbs or spices you want. So that's kind of how you make it your own mead, but it's defined, I believe, as a fermented honey beverage. So, I mean, there's another Slavic type of wine. I think it's called Mutnik, something like that. And you take a kind of a pile of herbs, you put a little metal funnel on top of it, and you burn them, and then it acts like a little chimney. And before you put your wine in your barrel, you smoke the barrel with all these herbs. So herbs and same with in herbs in the world of beer, hops were first added to beer as a preservative, not as a flavoring agent or a necessary ingredient. And you can use juniper and you can use other things. So the idea of adding herbs and spices to fermented beverages is not limited to mead, but that's what would make Jenny's or Mary or one of your meads different from mine. We might make it from this, like the same honey, but we could add our own different spice blends. And then there's also varying honeys. We could, I don't want to bore you about honey, but there's the honey farm I go to in Niagara has, 4 or 5 different types of honey that taste vastly different. Some of them don't even taste like honey. They taste like more caramel or malt. Wow. So there's so many varying degrees of mead. It's pretty cool, eh?
I've tasted honey directly from a
honeycomb kind of thing.
Yeah, so we went and I went and I helped them, when I was in Edmonton, kind of get the honey from the actual. Is it the honey colony? Is it? Wow, yeah, I did it and I can't even remember what it's called.
Yeah,
It's
colony.
their house. It's the condos. Yeah, what I call them.
Yep.
The hive.
Yeah, the little colonies. So,
and the whatever flower, Jen, is around them is the taste that you get in this honey.
Oh, that is
That's
so
right.
cool.
It was
Isn't that crazy?
insane to me. It was just insane that so if they had these, I can't remember what flowers. This is like a pointless story because I can't remember anything about it apparently. But the flowers
No, you're getting
that
it
were
down.
right
That's
beside.
yeah.
I'm getting it somewhere.
You're
I'm
getting
so glad you guys are following
it
me.
down. That's no. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Flowers
Okay, thank
determine the
God.
taste of
Well,
the
I guess,
honey.
and then that's why you see things like
Yes,
orange
thank
blossom
you.
honey and what, and like, the different names on the
Right.
honey as well, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and you can like I've had honey. So a club member here brought in some honey from Paris, or I think it was Paris. Yeah, it was Paris, and it was like perfumey and floral. It was amazing. It was really different from honey here, so very cool.
so when it comes to mead, so it's a drink on its own. It's not like, for example, a starter would be for a sourdough where you would use it to make another drink. It's a drink all on its own.
That's right. Yeah, it's a drink all on its own.
Mhm.
You'd inoculate it. I mean, honey, I'm sure it has natural yeast in it too.
Mhm.
Like it would eventually do the
Mhm.
job on its own, but not like kombucha where you'd need a SCOBY or something like that. I think you would. I've never made it at home myself, but you'd have to take your honey, dilute it with water to a certain percentage of sugar, and then add yeast or some kind of natural yeast and ferment it to your desired alcohol, whether that's dry or a little bit sweet. I think in the world right now, where if people want to make mead popular, I think the best thing they could do is treat it more like a cider and carbonate it and keep it bubbly and refreshing. Because I think the hardest thing people have is if you're drinking mead and you're expecting something like a wine, it's going to be very different. And might not be as
Are
good.
you getting that sweetness from the honey in it?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and a lot of meads, yeah, you're getting that honey sweetness. And I had one, like they can go from 5 or 8% alcohol all the way up to 18 or 20% alcohol. And I had some in Oregon when we were doing our honeymoon in Portland, and I tried some 18% mead there. It was at a brewery. They just happened to be serving mead on tap as well, and it was
No
really
way.
good. It was nice. Yeah, it was good. It was really, really good. But the
Well,
other
it's been around
thing
forever.
with that is
And I've heard
it's going to be expensive, because honey is so much more expensive than grain,
right.
right?
And I've heard of this recently. It's only because a couple of people I know have made it themselves. One being Matt, which is our editor.
Oh, cool.
I first heard about it from him, and we talked about it. And then I know a couple of people that have made it. But is there a difference? Like if someone's got a cloudier mead than another, is there a difference, or is that okay? Do you know anything about that?
I don't, from a mead perspective, I don't know, but from experience with wine or kombucha, like if you don't filter wine, it's very cloudy. Very cloudy.
Okay.
So I assume the same is with mead. It's probably just, there's so many different proteins and enzymes in honey that I'm sure when it's fermented, it's going to get cloudy. So you probably have to, if you want it nice and clear, you'd have to really filter that, I would assume. And I think the taste would be different too if you leave those in.
Okay, so mead. If you're telling our listeners, mead, yay or nay to try it?
I'd say yay. I'd say try it, and don't judge it at first, because you're trying to remember the first time you had a sip of wine or beer. You probably weren't, crazy about it when maybe your dad was barbecuing and he gave you a sip when you were 11 or 12. So it'll be a new flavor, but try it and give it a chance for sure.
That was mixologist Zach Kvass.
Pretty tasty stuff, right?
Didn't catch the whole conversation? You can find Sip Sip Hooray on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite platform.
Don't forget to check us out on Instagram at Bits and Bites Show, or for more at bitsandbitesshow.com.